Good evening, everyone. If you could please take your seats, we will get started in one moment. Thank you. I will go ahead and call to order the November 16th, 2021 Gilbert Town Council meeting. And the first thing on our agenda is the presentation of Student Citizen of the Month Award. We are still doing these electronically and virtually for our Student Citizens of the Month. And I apologize to the people that I have to read your names because some of them are a little more difficult than I think I will get them. I think I will get a few of them wrong. So I apologize in advance. Usually we have the students present and they can correct us and we can say it again for them. So we'll have Group 1, which is elementary schools A through J. Student Citizen of the Month is presented by the Mayor and Town Council. Students are nominated by their teachers and principals for demonstrating outstanding citizenship and displaying good character. Schools A through J are Ashland Ranch Elementary, Nolan Zamora, Bridges Elementary, Madison Roethlisberger, Burke Elementary, Angela Diosdado, Carol Ray Ranch Elementary, Aubrielle Root, Chaparral Elementary, Sienna Varela, Charlotte Patterson Elementary, Madison Basurto, Coronado Elementary, Mason Davis, Eduprise School, Rowan Brunson, Highland Park Elementary, Matthew Hunt, Islands Elementary, Ryan Matson. Next, we have Group 2, elementary schools K through Z. Mesquite Elementary, Jared Ramsey. Neely Traditional, Kira Algebra. Oak Tree Elementary, Alexia Rivera. Patterson Elementary, Maximiliano Gonzalez. Pioneer Elementary, Madeline Stoutenberg. Playa del Rey Elementary, Caden Ortiz. Riggs Elementary, Maddie Matejcek. Santan Elementary, Louis Morris. Settlers Point Elementary, Ethan Battaglia. Spectrum Elementary, Alexander White. Town Meadows Elementary, Dennis Nielsen. Val Vista Lakes Elementary, Van Johnson. Next, we have Group 3 is our middle school and high school students. Campo Verde High School, Nathan Ozozun. Canyon Valley High School, Leah Curcio. Christ Greenfield Lutheran School, Eden Farrell. Cooley Middle School, Miana Gonzalez. Gilbert Classical Academy, Megan Kochman. Greenfield Junior High, Marshall Disney. Highland High School, Michael Nielsen. Higley High School, Chase Farnsworth. Mesquite High School, Elizabeth Romero. Mesquite Junior High, Keely Durham. Payne Junior High, Emily Valls. Perry High School, Samantha Armstrong. And South Valley Junior High, Emma Dascom. Congratulations to all of our students of the month this month. I can't wait till we can get these kids back in person again and be able to present them with their certificates in person. Next, we will have the invocation led by, I don't see Rabbi Shimi here this evening. Rabbi, are you? Oh, you are here. I didn't see you back there, Rabbi. Right over here to the podium, Rabbi. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. We can rise. Isaiah 45:18 states, "He is the God, the one who fashioned the earth and its maker. He established it. He did not create it for emptiness. He fashioned it to be inhabited or settled. A vital aspect of God's plan in creation, based on the verse in Isaiah, is for the people to live and work together for a civilized society that operates in harmony, where people join together to enact a legal system for the purpose of building an environment where people are free to grow, free to produce, free to pursue better lives for themselves and for others. This is the purpose of government, to build a community where people can thrive as only human beings are capable, so that they are free to serve God to their best ability. Honorable Mayor and Town Council members, it is easy to lose sight of this lofty goal when you are bogged down in deliberations in that which demand your attention. Therefore, we turn to God to bestow blessings on our town's leaders, to provide them the wisdom to balance the rights of individuals, the community, and businesses, to enact laws and institute policies that will bring God's blessings of peace, goodness, and blessing upon them and upon all the citizens of this great town. May it be favorable in God's eyes to bless our mayor, our town council members, and all the citizens of Gilbert at all times and at every moment with his peace and blessings. May God bless the United States of America, the state of Arizona, and the town of Gilbert. And let us say, Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi. So nice to have you here this evening. Now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, and we may have some MIAC students present, or they may be running late. I don't see any. So Kathy, if you'd like to lead us. Sorry, Councilmember Tilke.
Thank you. Please stand and join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilmember Tilke, do you have a proclamation to share with us?
I do. Thank you, Mayor. We don't have anyone here today to present it to, so I will just read the proclamation in recognizing Small Business Saturday, and I really appreciate that we're taking the time to recognize all of our local businesses as we enter into the holiday seasons. I hope that you'll take time and visit them and make your purchases right here in Gilbert for your family and loved ones. Whereas the government of Gilbert, Arizona celebrates our local small businesses and the contributions they make to our local economy and community, and whereas, according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 31.7 million small businesses in the United States. They represent 99.7% of firms with paid employees, and they are responsible for 65.1% of net new jobs created from 2000 to 2019. And whereas 88% of U.S. consumers feel a personal commitment to support small businesses in the wake of the pandemic, and 92% of small business owners have pivoted the way they do business to stay open during the pandemic. And whereas Gilbert, Arizona supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups as well as public and private organizations across the country have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now, therefore, I, Bridget Peterson, Mayor of the town of Gilbert, Arizona, do hereby proclaim November 27, 2021 as Small Business Saturday. And we urge all of you to support our local businesses, and I want to thank all of our citizens for the support they've given our local businesses through the pandemic. You've helped them keep their doors open. You've helped our community thrive. And so let's go out and say thank you again on Saturday. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Tilke. Could we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Bridget Peterson.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jan Kaprowski. Councilmember Scott Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Lauren Hendricks.
Present.
Councilmember Scott September.
Here.
Councilmember Kathy Tilke.
Here.
Councilmember Amy Yenthas.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you, Chevelle. Could I have the members that are here from Gilbert Promotional Corporation please join me? We have a proclamation. Yes, straight down this way, please. Thank you. Thank you, Elena. Hello, how are you? Nice to see you again. You look beautiful. Oh, thank you. This proclamation is for Gilbert Days. Whereas the Gilbert Promotional Corporation has actively promoted Gilbert, Arizona through the annual celebration of Gilbert Days for many years, and whereas this event has become an occasion enjoyed not only by the residents of Gilbert, but by citizens from around the state of Arizona and visitors to Arizona, and whereas the Gilbert Days celebration provides entertainment for spectators as well as participants in a week-long celebration of Western festivities. The official opening will begin November 12th with a Pony Express 100-mile ride that we kicked off on Friday. Now, therefore, I, Bridget Peterson, Mayor of the Town of Gilbert, Arizona, do hereby proclaim the week of November 13th through the 20th, 2021 as Gilbert Days in the Town of Gilbert, and do hereby call upon the citizens of Gilbert and all visitors to join with me in celebrating Gilbert Days. Yay! I'd like to give you each an opportunity to state your name and what your position is with Gilbert Promotional Corps, starting with our queen.
Hello, my name is Jessica Wolf, and if you haven't guessed by the big hat and the crown, I am honored to be the 2020-2021 Gilbert Days Rodeo Queen. I'd like to thank you all for being here as we kick off for our Gilbert Days celebration, and we'd love to see you all at the rodeo as well. It's going to be a wonderful event celebrating not only our Gilbert history, but our Western heritage, and we can't wait to see you all there.
Thank you. My name is Patty Williams. I'm the royalty chair, sort of like her boss. And I've been a member of Gilbert Promotional for 43 years.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Bobby Padilla, longtime member of Gilbert, Arizona, and I'm proud to be here. Thank you for having us, and on with Gilbert Days.
Hi, my name is Kathy Padilla, and I'm a board member of the Gilbert Promotional Corporation.
Hello, my name is JD McGee, and I'm a board member.
My name is Megan Miller, and I'm the treasurer for Gilbert Days.
My name is Kim Graziano, and I'm the secretary for Gilbert Promotional Corporation.
My name's Paige Nelson, vice president, Gilbert Days Rodeo.
Ed Musgraves, Tamer, board member.
Ed Musgraves, staple to Gilbert Promotional Corps. I've been having meetings with you for 20 plus years, sir. I would love to get a photo of us if someone on my staff could help me out by taking a photo, since I don't have an aide this moment. Dawn, would you be able to take a photo of us together, please? I'd love to be able to share that on my social media. Who wants to hold this? Madam Queen, there we go. Thank you all. Thanks for all you do for Gilbert Days every year. Look forward to seeing you at the rodeo. Yeah. Oh, you are? Oh, great. Yeah. We were able to be on Fox 10 News on Friday morning to kick off the Pony Express ride. That was fun. Next on our agenda is communications from citizens. Our vice mayor couldn't join us for this part of the meeting, so Councilmember September will be taking over this portion of the agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. So now it is time for communications from citizens. The town of Gilbert, the Gilbert Town Council values citizen comments and input. Anyone wishing to speak before the council must fill out a request to speak card for each item they wish to speak on and submit it prior to the beginning of the meeting. The communications from citizens portion on the agenda provides citizens an opportunity to identify for the town council matters of interest or concerns related to town government that are not on the printed agenda tonight. Under the provisions of the Arizona Open Meeting Law, the town council is prohibited from responding to issues that have not been properly noticed. Therefore, the town council may only listen to citizens who wish to address them on non-agenda items. We regret that the town council cannot respond beyond thanking you for your comments. When your name is called, please come forward to the right-hand side. There's a podium. State your name and place of residence, and then begin speaking. All speakers are expected to observe common standards of decorum and courtesy. Personal attacks, political speeches, or threats of political actions are inappropriate in this forum and will be grounds for ending a speaker's time at the podium. The first person to speak will be Zain Hamid, followed by Brandon Riff.
Hello, Mayor Peterson and all the Gilbert Council members. I am here today to tell you about Project 1060. I feel like you guys should look at all the options possible, and we should come together to look at the best decision that can make us all happy. We need to work together in order to make the best decision and to make all our citizens happy. You guys are all great. You guys all work hard. You guys need to make the best decision. You guys are doing great so far, especially you, Mayor Peterson. Please look at all the decisions and please go with the best one. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Brandon Riff, followed by Larry Melton.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? There we go. All right, so I have a couple things. Somebody took out a public records request and provided me with some documents, asked me to look through them. I looked through them and I found some troubling items that I want to bring up. It started with a voicemail. There was a voicemail from the town engineer calling into the compliance department complaining about a political sign, which he referenced the content, specifically what the sign said, and that he thought it was in violation. There are all kinds of signs across this town about diabetes strips, things I won't mention, and more. And unless this same standard was applied to those signs, which I doubt they were because none of them have been taken down, they're all over, it kind of reminds me of the 2015 Supreme Court ruling against the town of Gilbert that specifically instructed the town of Gilbert not to use content-based means of regulating political signage. It's only been 6 years. It's short-term memory. Next was a bunch of photos, and photo of private citizen, his vehicle, a screenshot of his business website, his company logo, even the corporate records for his business. And this is an outspoken resident who has made his political beliefs quite apparent. And I don't know, is this like the guy in Scottsdale, the school board guy? I mean, are we making dossiers on private citizens here, or what exactly are we doing? Because this is alarming. I don't think anyone in this room would appreciate having all those photos taken of them because they're up putting political signs during an election. So who took these photos? Well, I happen to know it was town employees. Someone was in a town vehicle taking photos, sneaking photos of this gentleman without him knowing, apparently they're in the compliance department. If their main intent was to enforce code compliance, why don't get out of the car and walk over to the gentleman and have a conversation instead of taking photos of him and trying to trap him and catch him so that you can then go do what you want to do and take down the man's signs. Again, you had business website, you had his business address, you had his email address, his cell phone, and his business phone. None of those were utilized to contact this gentleman and make him aware of the issues with his signs. Next thing I see is a bunch of emails between town employees coordinating to remove, in a very systematic fashion, his political signs. They removed 80-something signs, somewhere between, I've heard different numbers, somewhere between 57 and 83 signs, and didn't put them back up. It's very interesting. I don't know why we would have an email from a town employee trying to recruit, asking for volunteers to work overtime and into the weekends to remove this man's signs. This is a threat to our freedom. Everyone in this room should be concerned, regardless of where you stand on the election issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up will be Larry Melton, followed by Emily Barton.
Good. My name's Larry Melton, resident of Gilbert. Happy to see all the fire in the back of the room, so that's awesome. Happy to be here. My biggest concern is for small businesses. I'm a small business owner myself. Luckily, the pandemic hasn't been detrimental to me, but I have a lot of friends. I have a lot of people who own small businesses throughout the town and who are no longer, they don't own their business anymore, or they're just barely scraping by to hit their payroll. So I'm here for them. I'm here for those people. I think we've seen a lot of things in the town that a lot of people, such as the gentleman before me, not really happy with. I come from a military background, so I hold leadership at an incredibly high standard. And when I look at up on the board right here, Bridget, I've talked to you a couple times. Unfortunately, no response. But the leadership level has fallen far below on what a lot of us expect. So what we're asking for is these small businesses have just taken a beating over the last almost 2 years. What I'm asking for is to really do some soul searching deep down inside and understand what your role is for the small businesses, not just putting a proclamation for, a Saturday, but being a voice for small businesses, being there for them and standing up when the time comes. I know we see what's coming down with mandates and vaccines. We saw that businesses, small businesses cannot weather the storm. Another storm is about to hit, and these businesses cannot handle those things. So when vaccines come, and I know it's 100 or more employees, and it's currently being challenged right now at the federal level in the Fifth Circuit. But if that fails, and that starts coming down and keeps trickling down lower and lower, I think we all know it started with 2 weeks to stop the spread, and now people are losing their jobs if they don't get vaccinated. I think we ask a lot to people in the back of the room, fire, to do a lot of things that most of us aren't willing to do, and it should be their choice on what they have to do in order to keep their job. There's a lot of great men and women, not just fire, not just police, but there's a lot of people throughout this town that they have principles that they live by, and I don't think that we as a town should ever trample on that. I know Gilbert is known for trying to be, Gilbert Kindness, City of the Future, all this really cool stuff, but it really doesn't matter much once you start trampling on those people's principles. Again, thankful to be here, thankful for not trying to play favorites with fire, police as well, everyone in our public sector. Thank you for what you do. I'm happy to be here, and I would just ask again for everyone that sits on this board right here, or this dais, or whatever it's called, just take a look, just deep inside, and really think about what you're willing to stand up for the people. You mentioned before, 65% of new jobs across this entire country and all the revenue that's made is small businesses. So keep them in mind when you go home tonight and think about the decisions you will ultimately have to make in the coming weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Melton. Next up is Emily Barton, followed by Mike Rudolph.
Hello, I'm Mayor Peterson. Happy to be here. Thank you, council members. This is not the first time I've been up here in regards to small businesses. You guys actually helped me stay open while we were trying to get our shop off the ground, out of our kitchen. And I can't thank you guys more for doing that. That's a big deal. We're coming up on 5 years in January in our space. And as Larry just said, there is a lot of small businesses that are hurting. We are in a large community of small businesses, and we don't have the luxury of opening up 10 different drive-throughs just to keep us open and floating. And like Larry had said, during last year, that was probably one of the most challenging times as a business that we've had. And we just had a meetup on Friday. We had another one last month. And one of the common threads is, I have never in my whole history of owning our business been so stressed out over payroll as I am now, which is crazy because last year tested everybody. It tested everybody's patience. It tested everybody's, there's so much division happening right now. And where there's a bunch of companies that are out there supporting our public safety, supporting our military, supporting all of our, officials that stick up for us, I would love to come up with a solution, and I will champion that. You already know I am happy to help in any way that I can, but I think that there's a lot that our small businesses are needing, and it goes far beyond just the regular, helping with payroll is great. There's a lot of us that haven't gotten rid of any employees, 0 employees, and we've made it work. And for that, I'm super grateful because you guys have done grants. There have been things that have come down that really saved all of us. And now we are down to cups, lids, and straws, which seems so simple and so silly. But those are some of the strange challenges that all of us small businesses are facing is how do you provide the products that your customers want and you can't get your hands on it? So everyone's costs have gone up exponentially. I mean, cups alone right now are 30 cents more. So I actually had a customer really upset that I had to sell her cups. And it seems really silly, but we want to continue supporting our public safety, our military. We want to do all of those things. All of us little guys really would love to give our employees all the hours that they want and health benefits and all of the things, and we can't get there if we don't have the support from our community and from our leaders. So again, just to reiterate what Larry said, I think there's some solutions that we can all come up with together. Happy to champion that for you guys if you guys are open to a discussion. And maybe a roundtable is in our future so that some of these small businesses can get together and really come up with some solid plans to make us, survive. So I thank you all. I really appreciate you guys listening to us.
Thank you, Ms. Barton. Next is Mike Rudolph, followed by Chad Rice.
Mayor Peterson and members of the Town Council, my name is Mike Rudolph, and I want to thank you for this time. I've been a proud member of the Gilbert Fire and Rescue Department for 27 years, and I currently serve as the president of the Gilbert Firefighters. I want to respect the time limit, so I'll get right to it. I'm here tonight to shed light on a problem we hope that you can help us solve. Morale in our workplace has never been lower. Your firefighters and first responders feel disconnected from the town, unheard, and disrespected. As we stand here, 20 months into a pandemic that has pushed every man and woman on the front lines to a breaking point, I want to say two things with clarity. First, your firefighters and police officers support our mayor and the town council, which bears no responsibility with the issues we're bringing up tonight. And second, we just feel town management must do a better job taking care of the concerns of the first responders who take care of our residents. We are experiencing staffing challenges that continues to add stress to an already difficult job made more difficult by the pandemic. We have experienced serious issues with our employees' COVID-19 workers' compensation claims. And now we're faced with a challenge of a disengaged workforce. As you're aware, the town commissions frequent employee engagement surveys. At one time, engagement within the Gilbert Fire and Rescue Department was over 80%, well over the national average per Gallup studies. Within the last 3 years, our engagement levels have steadily dropped, and today we're showing only around a 10% employee engagement participation. This underscores what I see every day, a public safety team giving their all to serve our citizens, but at the same time struggling because of a disconnection between the policymakers and the people who actually do the work. The 2021 resident survey asked how much influenced certain aspects of life had to do with the decision to live in Gilbert. 93% of residents said the feeling of being safe. Creating that feeling, making residents feel safe, does not happen by accident. It's not a result of new logos or better social media. It demands a total team effort where people genuinely work together and respect the contributions everyone can make to better serve each other and our citizens. We have 3 suggestions tonight that we hope you'll take seriously and act upon. First, let's practice being more inclusive. We're asking the town council to ensure a commitment from our town manager to practice joint planning and problem solving through processes that allow the men and women who serve as the boots on the ground a real opportunity to bring their firsthand knowledge to bear on public safety and its policies. Second, let's practice humility. We're asking the town council to hold town management accountable in 2022 to work together with us as a team to perform a comprehensive review of our engagement surveys so we can create solutions to improve morale. Because workers who fail unheard are not workers who thrive in a dangerous profession. And third, let's put service at the heart of everything we do. We would officially like to invite every council member and our town manager's team to join us in this building on December 14th so we can learn and grow together as leaders. Captain Nick Destrini collaborated with Chief Gary Hildebrand in our Health and Wellness Division to secure Brian Willingham as a keynote speaker. Brian is a respected servant leader in the Arizona Fire Service, and he's going to speak on mental resiliency, mission focus, and teamwork. We don't come to the council with these issues lightly, and we thank you for listening. We hope what we have shared tonight will inspire you to take action. As we await your help, your police officers and firefighters will continue to do what we do, staying mission focused and responding to calls for help for the citizens we care for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rudolph. Next up is Chad Rice, followed by Gary Harvey.
Mayor, council members, thank you very much for this time and this opportunity to speak to you. I, too, have been a firefighter here in Gilbert well over 20 years, and I've come to speak to you on behalf of your firefighters. We have had some significant concern with our firefighters being categorically denied for workers' compensation claims that deal with COVID-19. 18 months ago, the Industrial Corporation of Arizona came out with a policy regarding this specifically, and I'll read some of that quote. Please be advised that COVID-19 workers' compensation claims cannot be categorically denied, and Arizona law requires all denials to be well-grounded in fact and warranted by existing law. It goes on to say that the commission asks the carrier and self-insured employer community to be especially diligent when investigating and reviewing claims filed by first responders, healthcare workers, and frontline employees who have developed COVID-19. A study actually recently was done, and it was in the Journal of American Medical Association, actually done here in Arizona, that studied COVID-19 with healthcare workers, first responders, and essential workers. What they found was first responders are 60 to 100% more likely to get COVID even than just healthcare workers. So that being said, with our workers' compensation laws, the Industrial Commission policy, and with the JAMA published article, these things I don't feel can be ignored. And case in point, this doesn't seem to be, I would say, the standard of care. We look north in Mesa Fire and Medical Department has had 43 firefighters come down with COVID from a work exposure. All 43 were accepted. So 43 got it from work, none of them denied. Something I think we need to look at. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rice. Next up is Gary Harvey. Garrett, sorry, looked like Gary H. Harvey. Garrett. Sorry about that, Mr. Harvey.
You're fine. Thank you for the time, Council. My name is Garrett Harvey. East Valley, Arizona Firefighters for Freedom is an inclusive, kind, humble, and nonpartisan 501c3. We are a stakeholder group comprised of East Valley firefighters that believe in our God-given human rights, in liberty, free choice, and in this great country and in the freedom that it provides. We strive to maintain human rights, constitutional rights, civil rights, and liberties as sovereign and natural free citizens. We believe in the right to work, free will, personal choice, medical freedom, and consent without coercion, retaliation, threats, disciplinary action, or termination. This is why we are against mandated vaccinations for all city employees and the citizens of this state and the country for that matter. This is not a vaccinated versus non-vaccinated issue. It's not a left versus right political issue. This is a human rights issue, and we actually have common ground, which is our freedom. Passports and mandatory COVID inoculation policies and practices are divisive, invade privacy, and have no place in a free society. If we adopt and allow medical mandates from the top down, then what we are left with is a takeover of bodily autonomy. It is unbelievable that public servants who have served throughout COVID without due regard for their own safety are now being seen as a threat. They've gone from hero to zero. We respect the choices of our brothers and sisters in the fire department, as well as those people in our community. To get vaccinated or not is a personal choice between a person and their doctor. We want to bring education and truth to the people of this community. We will always respond and provide care for anyone in our community, vaccinated or not vaccinated, no passport required. We hope that you will stand with us, and we believe all members and citizens have the freedom of choice and natural rights. We would like to publicly thank Mayor Peterson, as well as the town manager, Mr. Banniger, for their willingness to uphold our freedom by allowing us to have personal choice and continue to do so going forward. I hope that we can count on you to stand with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. That concludes our communications from citizens. Now we have our consent calendar.
Can I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
My Mayor's Youth Advisory Council students all came in just a few minutes late. I'd like to have them stand if I could and be recognized. They've already had an hour-and-a-half session with our InterGov department, Rob Bohr and Amy Argules, and they had a presentation by Jordan Ray, Judge Jordan Ray, and Representative Jennifer Pollock. Thanks for being here, students. It's nice to have you. Thank you for the indulgence.
No, anytime. Now we have our consent calendar. So far, we have item 5, item 6, and item 10 that there's been a request to pull them from the consent agenda for further discussion. Council members or mayor, are there any other items that you'd like to be removed from the consent calendar? No, hearing none. Great, then I will entertain a motion to approve items 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, and 11 from our consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote.
I don't have a voting screen. Kelsey, please. It says waiting for presentation to start.
The motion passes. Councilmember Yentes, would you like to discuss item number 5 and number 6?
Sure, thank you. So I pulled item number 5 because I looked through the contract that was in our packet, and do believe that we have the expertise within our department to do a study of this scope. We've got a talented economic development team. We've got a staff person who's dedicated to the tourism aspect of their strategy, and I just don't think this is a wise use of money when it is something I think that it didn't strike me as any particular secret sauce here, that we have the talent and the know with how to do ourselves. So I'd like to vote on this separately.
Thank you, Councilmember Yentes. So I'd like to hear a motion for item number 5. Is there a motion to approve item number 5?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes. Councilmember Yentes, would you like to discuss item number 6?
Sure, I'll be brief. I've voted, I haven't supported this in the past for a couple aspects. One, I think this particular project is one that's more gold-plated, more so than is necessary. So as it did on the last council meeting, we just want to vote separately on this one as well.
Thank you, Councilmember. Do I hear a motion for item number 6?
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes. Councilmember Hendricks and Councilmember Yentes, would you like to discuss item number 10?
Do you want me to go first? Item number 10 is the acceptance of the canvass of the election for the bond. I'm concerned about the outcome of the election because I'm concerned that the town may have illegally interfered in the election. No matter which side of the bond or any election you're on, you should be concerned if we can't trust the integrity of our elections. I'd like to talk about why I'm concerned about the town's interference in the election. We heard from a speaker tonight. Some of his comments I'll reiterate. But there was an individual or a group, I don't know who put the signs up, but there were signs around town that were opposed to the bond. And they had various reasons on them for opposing the bond. And my understanding is the gentleman put them up over a period of about a day. And the following day, the signs were gone. Turns out the town instructed town employees to take those signs down immediately, urgently, without delay. So the individual or the group or whoever put them up retained an attorney. And their attorney sent a letter to the town and said these signs are legal and you're interfering with free speech, you're interfering with an election. And the town responded. And I'm going to read the response. I was given the response that this group received by them with the approval of their attorney. So this is a letter from the town attorney to the attorney representing the person that put up the signs. It says, while I strongly disagree with a number of legal and factual assertions you make in your letter, this notice is to let you know that the town will not remove, and it has the gentleman's name I'm not going to say, will not remove his signs for failing to provide a contact name on the sign. So one day the gentleman puts up the signs. They're illegal. And they're such a danger and a harm to the public that we need to take them down immediately, expediently, at all cost. They need to be gone right now. The next day, we don't agree with the reasons that his attorney claims that they're legal. We claim that those reasons are questionable. I guess you could say that we think they're still illegal. But even though they're still illegal, because we disagree with the reasons they've stated for making them legal, it's okay to leave them up now. Not a problem. Yesterday they're illegal, and it's urgent we need to get rid of them. Now they're still illegal, but they're okay to stay up. I'm not clear on that, but that's what the letter says. As time went on, there were Freedom of Information Act requests given to the town regarding these signs and how they came to disappear. And part of what was handed out per the Freedom of Information Act was we got a voicemail from a town engineer, not a code compliance officer, a town engineer. And I listened to the voicemail when it came out. And I don't have a transcript of it here, but it's available to anybody else who wants to ask for it. It's public information. But the message says something to the effect of, this is so-and-so. I'm in my truck. I'm driving through the town. I'm on this corner. And I see a sign. And it says, don't trust the mayor, no on the bond. Something to that effect. He says, I don't think it has any fine print on it saying who put the sign up. I think it might be an illegal sign. You've all seen signs on the street from your vehicle. You looked on the corner of the street. I would imagine most of you have probably noticed that they didn't have the name of who paid for the sign that's written in about quarter-inch print from your vehicle. He finishes his voicemail to code compliance. I also think I might have seen another one over on another corner. I don't think it had the name on there of who paid for it either. We probably need to check on these and get those removed because they might be illegal signs. Makes sense. I can imagine the town engineer, that'd be a high priority. That's something he'd want to be on top of, driving past a sign at 30 miles an hour, maybe sitting at a red light with his binoculars. Be right on top of that. I would imagine all town employees are on top of that sort of thing, not just code compliance. They need all the help they can get. So I'm concerned when I see that. And then I look through the emails that were communicated back and forth between town employees. These were also part of the Freedom of Information Act request. There's one email that went out to not only code compliance officers, but to other town employees. We got to get these signs down. I may be looking for volunteers to work overtime. Now, I believe that means we're going to pay you time and a half to help get these signs down this weekend. We got to get them down now. We're willing to pay overtime. These signs are a danger to the town, it sounds like. We need to be on them right now. Now, I don't know if anybody accepted overtime or not. I haven't finished going through all the emails. A few years ago in Reed versus Gilbert, went all the way to the Supreme Court because Gilbert chose to enforce laws based on the content on signs, and we lost. You'd think we wouldn't be doing it again. So I look at this election, as I'm concerned, as election interference, and when I first heard about this, the gentleman that put the signs up, he sent emails to some or all of the council. He sent an email to me, so I knew about him. And I looked at it, and I was curious. At first, I thought, well, this must be something seriously wrong. And they apparently had some deficiency that made them potentially illegal. So as I was driving to work that day, this is the day where the signs came down. They went up one day. We used half the town to take them down the next day. I'm driving to work that day. Okay, I'm driving from Pecos and Lindsay to Baseline and McQueen. That's my drive to work. Okay, that morning, as I'm driving, I'm looking around to make sure the town is safe from any illegal signs. And as I'm driving that 10-mile drive, on that day, this is the day following we took down essentially every one of these illegal signs. Here are the signs that I passed that I made a note of as I was driving. I wrote it down, okay, because I was just curious. Hopefully we don't have any of these. I probably should have called code compliance. We had a sign that said Christmas lights installation. I couldn't see a name from my car on that sign, so I'm assuming it was an illegal sign. Frankly, it'd be illegal anyway, because it's not a political sign. You can't put it up. I see another sign, and I wrote down nometh.com, but it's a sign to get away from meth addiction. It's got a phone number and a website on it. I find a sign that says cash for diabetic strips. I was curious what those were for. I understand they use those to manufacture illegal drugs. That sign's up. I get up there around Guadalupe and Cooper. I see a sign advertising discount adult toys. I had to take a picture of that one. I find another one, cash for your house today. Okay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 different signs on my 10-mile drive to work. I shudder to think how many of these signs are endangering the town. If you go through the rest of the town, all of these illegal signs. I didn't see any emails offering overtime to take these signs down. I didn't hear any voicemails from the town attorney, the town whatever else. None. I don't know why. I mean, I guess these signs are okay, but signs that say don't trust the mayor, no on the bond, those create a danger for the town. I was driving to this meeting tonight, just now, hour ago. Lindsay and Pecos, that's where I live. I drive to here, what's that, 4 miles? As I'm driving, keep in mind a political sign can be up for a very specific number of days after the election. The day's passed. Those signs are no longer legal. They can't be up. I passed 4 different signs that said yes on question 1. Now, what do you suppose question 1 is? Those signs are okay. Those signs are still up. Nobody's out working overtime tonight to get those signs down. This is illegal election interference. Let's get past the signs. And election interference, if anybody should know about election interference, I had to sue the town so they'd seat me on the council seat. I'm familiar with the town's election interference. There's a half a dozen people that have signed statements, and I'm relying on what they've said. I didn't see this. Apparently the town maintained a tent or a table or some sort of a place at the farmer's market on the weekends in downtown. We had actually elected members of this body spent time working in that tent, as well as town employees handing out town literature to make people aware of the bond, what it is. That's perfectly legal. In fact, the town should make citizens aware that there's an election coming up and they should vote. But they were making comments like, if the bond passes, we'll have less congestion, we'll have less traffic, we'll have better public transportation. Those are not factual statements. Those are a conclusion that you make from what the bond is paying for. If I tell you I'm going to put in a 10-lane road through downtown Gilbert for 2 miles, now you may choose to conclude that traffic will be less, but that's not a fact. You may have more traffic backed up in downtown Gilbert because you put in a 10-lane road. That is trying to encourage someone to vote in favor of the bond by sharing your conclusions of the facts. That is not factual information. That is
Those statements were never stated.
That is an effort to persuade someone to vote in favor of the bond.
Councilmember Hendricks
For-
and Mayor. Vice
If I-
Mayor, would you like to?
I'd like to finish my comments first.
We thought you were finished. Sorry, there was a
I'm not
long
finished.
hesitation.
I'm not finished. But when I am finished, I will let you know. So what we clearly have is, without any question, and I want to be clear, I didn't name anyone. I said we had town staff elected members making these representations, and there are many people that have made the statement. At the end of the day, the bond passes by, was it 1/4%, 1/3 of a percent, in the election where we had 23% of the population voted. I think it was 164 votes was the difference. So the question comes down to, with just what we know so far, because there are hundreds of emails in this Freedom of Information request, probably 1/3 of them have been reviewed. I can't even venture to guess what else might come up in these emails. But I have to wonder, when the signs that were removed and not put back up, the person that put them up had to pay to put them up again, could that have influenced 164 votes? Or when people read in the newspaper the following day that there was this dishonest behavior putting up signs, so the signs were taken down, did anybody get confused and think, I don't know what's going on? There's some dishonest guy putting up signs, the town's taking them down, this might improve traffic, it might not. Did they not vote at all? 164 people. Did they not vote at all? Did they maybe vote yes when they would have voted no? If you flip them the other direction, you only need 82 votes if somebody voted yes and would have voted no. For that reason, I'm going to vote no on accepting this resolution. Now I am finished.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Kaprowski, did you want to speak to this item?
I do, thank you. I wanted to just make it known that I was the council member that attended a Saturday farmers market in the spring of 2021 to help educate the public with facts and have them better understand what was going to be coming to council in June for the transportation bond election. I believe that and want to put on the record that the statements and allegations that Councilmember Hendricks just stated are not factual, and we've tried very hard to state the importance of the transportation bond and encouraging our residents to vote. And I think on the other hand of that, if it's not okay to say that people should vote for the bond, then it's also not okay to say that people should not vote for the bond. And that has been done on the dais in past meetings. I just don't appreciate allegations being made when they were not said at all.
Thank you, Councilmember Yentes. Or Councilmember Kaprowski, Vice Mayor Kaprowski, my apologies. Councilmember Yentes, did you want to speak on this item as well?
I do, thank you. And I do think there's a distinction that's important to be made, that council members and public officials can go out and advocate and obviously promote or discourage a particular vote and influence as they see fit. The distinction being made that you can't use town resources to do so, which makes sense. We don't want government putting their thumb on the scale one way or the other when it comes to these electorate issues. So Councilmember Hendricks, I think, has brought up some issues and some areas of concern that I think are definitely need some further investigation, and we need to look at these very closely. And because the margins were so close, that's really where the rubber hits the road here for me, at least. Is if this was kind of outside the margin, this was a landslide election, and there really wouldn't have been made a difference, all these factors that are brought up, then I would feel comfortable moving forward and doing just what our legal obligation is by a statute, which is accept the canvas. But with these kind of swirling out there, I definitely have concerns doing that. I'll bring up a couple other points that aren't necessarily legal issues, but I think that they're important to discuss now that the dust has settled and we've got what the election results are. And some of that is the concerns I had with putting this and sending this, referring it to the ballot, in general, the timing that we did so. Specifically, I think this should be a reality check. The organization should be looking at this election and using it as an opportunity to digest and be very thoughtful about the direction our town is going, because whether this was a transportation bond or issue, I think there was a lot of things that people were voting on with this particular election, one only being transportation. And so the town, so to speak, had every advantage, and I use that as the town, like the government, and obviously the taxpayers weigh in as voters, but we had an off-cycle election, so, cities and towns and school boards and whatnot fight tooth and nail to get, fight consolidated elections and make sure that we have issues that are specific to localities on special elections and off-election cycles, because it maximizes advantages for them. They call it, we get more educated voters on these specific local issues, but the reality is you get poor voter turnout, and poor voter turnout does not advantage the taxpayer, generally speaking. So, we really did have every advantage as far as a organization, as far as a town, in getting this passed. We had, the pro side was better financed. They had the election cycle timing on their hand. They had the whole mail-in ballot method to their advantage. And so for this to be as close as it is should be a earth-shaking wake-up call. And I think, I'm sorry, I'm not sure who that was, but anyway.
Sir, excuse me, that's not acceptable to speak out during the council meeting. Councilmember Yentes, please continue.
Thank you, Mayor. And so, that's when you're looking at a margin so close as that, when, the opposition, it was not as organized and didn't have those same advantages, I think that this should be a wake-up call. That we've had some other public records requests that have been filed previous to this, months prior, and I do think that there are elements of this that are, should also be looked at more closely. I mean, the town pays political consultants to do polling prior to us sending this to the ballot. I think we've overpaid for that. I think, that showed overwhelmingly over 60% of, our taxpayers were going to support this. That's not nearly anywhere close to what the results were. So we should all be scratching our head at the discrepancy there. Not to mention, paying political consultants to do polling at all, let alone overpaying for them. And these are issues that I think that we just need to think long and hard about as we move forward with other issues that we're going to, either build trust with the community or break and fracture trust with the community. And I think this election is a reflection of the fact that clearly we have some trust building to do with the community, because it's not there. If, overwhelmingly the last transportation bonds have received, upwards of 60, 70%. And, obviously that was a long time ago, 2006, 2007. And so Gilbert's grown a lot. I was never out and out opposed to a transportation bond in conception, but the way that this has been rolled out, I think is problematic. And I don't want to continue to make the same mistakes, but it's kind of the combination of those things that I don't feel comfortable at this point accepting the canvas of results, because it really is in that margin of, call it whatever you want, cheating or the thumb on the scale, or just when you have to suss out some of these irregularities before you can truly feel like you can confidently accept an election result.
Thank you, Councilmember Yentes. Any other council members like to comment on item number 10?
Yes, please. Thank you.
You want to talk to your friend while you don't have to go on this ride right now.
What? Somebody's mic is open that we can hear that's virtual.
Oh. I thought somebody was telling me what to say. Thank you. First of all, thank you to the voters who did come out and vote. It's so very important to our community, and I was co-chair of the Transportation Bond Committee, and so I will say in all respect to Councilmember Yantis and Hendricks, that it isn't easier being on the pro side because we are very limited in how we can communicate and what we can communicate. We have a more difficult time of explaining complex issues. The opposition seems to have a little more leeway, at least in this particular election. And one of the things I'm just a little confused about, and I think deserves us to dig a little deeper, and that is into the current statutes that deal with political signage and political campaign finance, all of those types of things. There seems to be a very wide gray area. And when I look at the comments that Councilmember Hendricks mentioned about those signs, I'm getting different stories about it. The letter that he's referencing said that this person was an individual, was not connected with anybody else, and therefore, because the statute said you had to be an actual PAC or a candidate, that those laws do not apply to an individual. However, through public comment and public emails, we continue to hear that it was an organized group. And once it becomes organized, they need to be following campaign finance laws. I'm not looking at going out after anybody or even going backwards. What I want to do is I want us to look forward, as you mentioned, that this is kind of a wake-up call, that the way that we conduct elections should be very clear. The law should be very clear so that we understand, if you are an organized opposition, the rules that they need to be playing or not. And whatever that is, it's fine with me. I just want it to be very clear. The other thing is, over the many years, I think we have done less on code enforcement for different things, whether it's usually signage, flags, whatever you want to say. And we've turned that over to people. If they submit a complaint, they will enforce it. So I think that's an area we need to be looking at. If we have illegal signs that are out there all the time that don't need to be there, then this council needs to be very clear that those signs either need to be ignored or be removed. So I think that would address some of the comments that Mr. Hendricks made. But this was a very difficult election during a time where there is a lot of distrust amongst each other, amongst government, amongst a lot of different things. And I think because of that, it really took on a different flavor than what most elections would. But I think clearing up some of that will help in the future. I wish it was a landslide. I understand your perspective that the pro has the advantage in a off-season, yet 2 of school districts lost in landslides. So if there was, I believe there's still that opportunity for not always to be favorable in a mid-election cycle. So with that, if I don't know if anybody else wanted to speak. If they don't, then I'm ready to make a motion to accept.
Any other comments on item 10?
I'd just like to clarify something. Our town attorney, Chris Payne, is it 15 days for the signs to be removed, which would make it actually end of business tomorrow, that all signs would need to be down, and that would be the yes signs and the no signs?
It's 15 days after the conclusion of an election.
And if the no signs and the yes signs are not down, then code enforcement will go out and pull them all at this point in time, so the town will pay for that.
That's the process, is once that time period's passed, they will go and retrieve all the signs.
So they have another 24 hours before those signs all need to be down all over town. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
And Mayor, I've asked people to let me know if there's a sign up for the Yes campaign. We have been out pulling signs. So if you do see one, please let me know. We will send somebody out to get it right away. We've been working nonstop trying to get those signs taken down.
There's one at Power in Williamsfield. Councilmember Anderson, sorry. Councilmember Sam.
Just a quick question of our attorney. We're not in violation of that Supreme Court ruling. We're not regulating any content. We're regulating what's required by the Arizona Revised Statute. Is that correct?
Mayor, Councilmember Anderson, yes, there's a statute that, well, the town's general position prohibits all signs in the right-of-way, but there's a statute in Title 16 that requires cities and towns and counties to allow political signs in rights-of-way under certain circumstances. So that's the statute at issue.
But we haven't regulated any content on any sign per that judgment.
That's correct. The statute has certain provisions, one of which talks about public safety. If you put a sign where you can't see when you're turning right, it has what we talked about certain, there's provisions related to size limitation, there's provisions related to identification of who's putting it up. So that's correct.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on item 10? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to approve item number 10.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Item passes. Mayor, that ends the consent items.
Thank you very much, Councilmember September. You did a great job pitch hitting this evening for Vice Mayor Kaprowski. We'll now move to the public hearing portion of our agenda. We have, I didn't count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 liquor licenses on our agenda, an item for a general plan / zoning potential change, and fees. Would the council like to do one motion for the liquor licenses? Would you like to include the fees, or would you like to discuss those separately?
Mayor, I'd like a presentation on the fees, please.
Okay. Then I would open the public hearing and accept a motion to approve the liquor licenses that we have on our public hearing this evening.
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember September, seconded by Councilmember Yentes. Please vote.
Excuse me, Mayor, did you close the public hearing?
Close the public hearing. Please vote. Thanks for keeping me honest there, Chris. That motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item number 18 on our agenda. It's general plan GP 21-05, zoning Z 21-07. We will have a presentation this evening by Keith. If you could introduce yourself when you come to the podium, Keith. I don't know that you've presented to us since we've been here at the Public Safety Training Facility. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing for your presentation.
Mayor Peterson, members of the council, good evening. It has been quite some time since I've actually presented in front of the council. Never in this building, though, but it has been some time. So I got to make sure this clicker works. Let me see here. Where am I pointing it to? Over here? Mayor Pierce, this doesn't seem to be my presentation. This looks like it's the applicant's presentation. Yes, thank you.
Is that yours, Keith? Or is that still the
No,
president?
this is still the applicant's presentation. There it is. There it is. Now we just got to get the clicker to work here. It's working. Fantastic. All right. Technical difficulties. It's okay. Okay, Mayor Peterson, members of the council, good evening. My name is Keith Newman, and I am a senior planner here with the town. And as I've stated before, it's the first time I've been able to present to you in this building, and it's been a couple of years since I've presented in front of the council. Most of my projects are just on the consent agenda and smooth sailing. The proposed vacant 13, well, first of all, the project tonight before you is Alta Gilbert, which is, I'll go into a little more detail here in a minute. It's a minor general plan amendment and a PAD rezone. The proposed vacant 13.46 acre property is located at the northwest corner of McQueen Road and Elliott Road, highlighted there on your screen in front of you, and is located in the northwest growth area of the town. The property, which is currently zoned community commercial, fronts onto McQueen Road and Elliott Road and is adjacent to the Sunrise Business Park to the west and a little bit to the north, which are zoned for light industrial uses. To the south of the site, across the other side of Elliott Road, is zoned community commercial and light industrial, and is part of the Gilbert Spectrum Industrial Park. To the east of the site across McQueen Road is commercial zoning at the corner and single-family residential further to the north. Please note that the subject site has been envisioned by the town and the original developer as a prime commercial center or commercial corner, providing needed support and complementary uses to the growing employment base in this area. The current property owners are now of the opinion that the inclusion of multifamily residential with a small commercial corner provides critical housing not currently available for the workforce in the area. We'll talk a little bit more about this. So the request is on a 13.46 acre gross acre property. The applicant is requesting a minor general plan amendment on 11.9 gross acre portion of the overall 13.46 acre site, from general commercial on this 11.9 acres to residential 25 to 50 dwelling units per acre, and to rezone from community commercial to multifamily high on 11.9 acre gross acres, and on 2.37 acres at the arterial corner, at the hard corner, they are proposing to rezone that from community commercial to community commercial with a planned area development. The applicant is proposing a PAD in order to lock in their proposed design. Approval of this request, if it was deemed to be approved tonight, will allow for the development of a multifamily residential apartment complex consisting of 278 units in 3- and 4-story buildings. In addition to the request, also is that small commercial corner pad on the corner totaling 1.63 net acres. So this slide shows the general plan exhibit and highlights that area for you, which is 11.09 gross acres, from general commercial to residential 25 to 50 dwelling units per acre. As part of the general plan request, the applicant has provided a project narrative in your packet, which I'm sure you've all read, that states how they believe the amendment meets the goals and policies of the general plan. However, staff finds that the overall proposal lacks the design elements needed to realize the mixed-use vision of the general plan. As a result, staff does not support the proposed general plan amendment request. A critical component of building a resilient Gilbert is ensuring that our community has a balance of land uses and job opportunities. Commercial land uses provide supporting goods and services to large employment areas such as the Northwest Growth Area. Protection of land designated for non-residential uses such as the subject site is a key to achieving long-term sustainability. Several policies in the general plan, as listed in the staff report, support the existing non-residential land use or would support a change from community commercial to an employment land use classification that would remain compatible with the development on the west side of McQueen Road to the north and south of the subject site that you see all along McQueen Road. So this next slide shows you the zoning exhibit, which includes a request to rezone the site, as I've already stated, from 11.09 acres of the site from community commercial to multifamily high, and including the 2.37 acres of community commercial on the corner. And this is a PAD request with no deviations. So the development plan that is before you on the screen is proposed by the applicant, consists of 4 total residential buildings that contain, as I said earlier, 278 apartment units for a total of 25.1 dwelling units per acre, which just meets the minimum density range allowed for multifamily high zoning. The buildings on the site will be 3 to 4 stories in height with a max around 45 feet tall. You can see on the screen in front of you the 2 buildings at the rear of the site that also contain garages on the ground floor are 4-story buildings, and they're approximately 55 feet or so in height. The buildings that are along McQueen Road are 3-story buildings, and they will be about 36 feet in height. The apartment complex portion of the site is actually 9.67 net acres, and I've already stated, and that's part of phase 1, and the commercial piece on the corner, which is kind of highlighted by the red, with the red line, is going to be in phase 2, and that's about 1.63 net acres. Here's the pretty picture, the pretty color narrative, illustrative plan for you. The applicant has provided on this site various project amenities, and as you can see in the little table there in front of you on the screen, a resort-style pool. They'll have game lawns, a tree bosque, if I'm pronouncing that right, 24-hour aquatic center, a business center, a clubhouse with a kitchen, and a dog park for residents in the center, which are all typical amenities that you would see in an apartment complex such as this. So the applicant has provided this detailed development plan which includes no deviations in order to allow for a clear understanding of what is proposed. Please note that if this were to be approved, this site must be constructed in substantial conformance to this development plan. A detailed development plan is a good path when the neighbors, staff, and the town council want assurance regarding project development. Nonetheless, the difficulty with the detailed development plan in this situation for the proposed project is that if approved, it would lock in a plan that represents a standard multifamily development and commercial corner that contains no interrelating unique design features typically provided with the planned area development, and severely limits the ability of the project to create a holistic, mixed-use, community-centric environment that the marketplace is hungry for and that the general plan supports. In short, there would be little room for site plan modifications during the design review process and no flexibility to improve the design of the site and resolve some of the issues that I'm going to now go over. So the first issue that we wanted to talk about tonight, and this is the meat and potatoes, is the loss of commercial. Staff does not support the loss of 11.09 acres of non-residential property on a major arterial corner in the northwest growth area / employment area. It has been communicated to the applicant that this site can be developed to supplement the existing employment uses in the area or rezone to permit further growth of light industrial employment uses in the northwest growth area. Lastly, please note that a vision plan for the northwest growth area is currently under review, and I believe it's a plan you have seen. Our economic development team is here tonight. In just a few minutes, Jen Graves will go into more detail on the northwest growth area plan, or the northwest growth area in general, and discuss other uses that are in demand on the site to further illustrate that a change to residential is not appropriate on this site. The next is the setbacks. The proposed residential development would create increased side setbacks for all industrial sites abutting the subject property to the west and to the north. And it would increase those setbacks which exist at 15 feet today based on the current zoning. It would increase those setbacks from 15 feet to 75 feet, essentially prohibiting future expansion and limiting redevelopment opportunities for adjacent properties in the future. As this site is in a growth area with a proposed redevelopment plan, it is anticipated that the adjacent industrial sites would expand or redevelop in the future. Allowing residential to adjoin the industrial would severely limit future reinvestment and redevelopment opportunities. The next are the commercial setbacks to the north. The side setbacks of the vacant commercial parcel to the north would be doubled from 15 feet to 30 feet as a result of this proposed development, making the commercial property very challenging to develop given its relatively small size. Another set of issues that we have with the project, the visual impact along McQueen Road. The development plan has been modified from the original submittal to include 2 3-story apartment buildings along McQueen Road, whereas before there was only one, that will be set back 42 feet from the property line and 220 feet from the existing single-family residential homes across the street. The impacts of 2 36-foot tall buildings where the long side of each building faces the street, totaling 388 feet of total building frontage, will have a very significant impact on the existing single-family homes on the east side of McQueen Road. The next is the lack of integration. Even if staff was supportive of a rezone to residential, this site is not appropriate for mixed use, and I'll explain why. It does not include an appropriate level of integration between the multifamily and the proposed commercial, and is not what was envisioned upon the creation of the MFH zoning district. A more vertically and horizontally integrated mixed-use environment was envisioned, which would place apartment buildings much closer to non-residential uses where they can conveniently be accessed by residents through a highly landscaped and unique walkable pedestrian scale environment. The current design completely separates the commercial from the residential by a large parking lot, making it feel highly disconnected and not one cohesive development. The proposed design has no unique or integrated design features or elements. It is a standard commercial parcel. During the review process for this project, the staff asked the developer to consider a loft-above vertical mixed-use development concept on this site, featuring commercial and retail uses on the ground floor and residential on the upper floors. Please note that an example of such a development we provided to the applicant is under construction at the corner of Higley and Ray, which is Epicenter. The applicant was highly encouraged by staff to consider moving in a similar direction. It should be noted that residential loft above is a permitted use by right in the community commercial zoning district and would require only a design review application, but not a general plan amendment or a rezone. It's allowed by right in that zoning district. So the next issue is conceptual elevations. Upon the general review of the conceptual elevations that provided to staff and that you can see on your screen, we are highly concerned with the design and that it does not meet the same level of quality as other higher-end apartment complexes recently approved by the town, and I'll give you a name of a few of them, such as the elevations at Santan, Town Commons, the flats at Santan, Novell at Val Vista Square, and Quintana at Verde Cooley Station, just to name a few of them. The next issue. Please note so as I talk about this slide, please note that town staff is not opposed to multifamily residential and are aware that there are housing shortages throughout the town of Gilbert and other locations in the valley. However, we are opposed to the rezoning of a major arterial corner to multifamily high, and that this site is not the right location for this type of important housing in the town. Multifamily high is a new housing option in the town of Gilbert, which was incorporated into the Land Development Code in August of 2019. In order to ensure that housing at higher densities is located in the right location around intense mixed-use environments, such as near freeways, regional shopping centers, and hospitals, to name a few. So currently and it's on the screen in front of you, currently there is only one project that's zoned MFH in the town that has been approved by town council, and that is Novell at Val Vista Square, which is located within a 34-acre master plan, and you can see that on the screen in front of you in the top right corner. And this master plan will include employment, hospitality, and retail/restaurant uses when fully built out. In keeping with the description of MFH zoning, as outlined in the Land Development Code, as mentioned in the Land Development Code, Novell at Val Vista Square is appropriately located in a much more intense mixed-use urban environment north of the Loop 202 freeway and adjacent to the Santan Village Shopping Center, across the street from the Santan Motorplex, and less than 1 mile from the Gilbert Regional Hospital. So again, from a design standpoint, Novell is much different than the proposed project and where it's located in a much more intense mixed-use urban environment. From a design standpoint, Novell is much different from that standpoint as well. As the Novell, the units are taller and very close to one another and in front of an urban streetscape that runs right through the middle, where the units front the street and creates a walkable connectivity type of environment, allowing residents and future employees, restaurants that go to restaurants, and the guests for the hotels and the shoppers in the master plan to be able to free flow between uses. And that does not exist with the current project that is before you tonight. So this slide, I wanted to show this slide to make you aware that buildings similar to this one right here, this is a quite tall building, are proposed on the corner, or proposed on the corner, on this corner, which consists of 3 or 4 stories in a much less urban environment than what you have just seen on the previous slide, which was the vision for the town for MFH zoning, like Novell at Val Vista Square presented to you just a minute ago. Some additional information provided by our Water Resources Department is another issue that I wanted to bring to you that we like to highlight. As we have stated, the primary issue with this development is the loss of commercial at a major arterial corner, which will not only impact the use of the land and its impact on surrounding properties, but it will impact the amount of water that this new use would generate, which is much higher than if the property was to remain as commercial or industrial uses. So based on a conversion of the 11.09 acres of land from some type of commercial or industrial use to high-density residential at 25 dwelling units per acre, the water use increase is somewhere between 16.21 acre-feet per year on the low end and 24.10 acres of acre-feet of water per year on the high end for more intense type development. I'm getting close, guys. So as far as traffic demand, traffic generation, I think I told you the wrong slide. I skipped. So, oh, something's messed up. The titles are switched. I apologize for that. But this is the traffic generation slide. So from a traffic generation standpoint, vehicular trip generation for the proposed development compared to other potential uses that could be developed on the subject site, which include low and high intensity commercial uses and industrial development within a range of about 150,000 square foot industrial, are in front of you on the screen. So as you can see, the current proposal is about 9,057 daily trips with 280 units and a restaurant on the corner. For low intensity commercial uses, which is about a self-storage facility, not saying we want a self-storage facility on the corner, but just to show you the low intense use that it could be there, is about 346 daily trips. A high intensity use would be a shopping center, which would generate about a little over 10,000 daily trips based on the uses allowed in this zoning district. And then for industrial uses, about 627 daily trips would be generated if it was zoned for industrial uses. So now I will turn the presentation over to our economic development team, who will present more information on land uses in the town and key characteristics and importance of the Northwest Growth Area in relationship to the subject site.
Thank you,
Jen
Keith.
Graves.
Hi, Jen Graves. We don't, please, folks, we don't clap during the council meetings. Thank you. Thanks, Jen. Hi, Jen. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good.
Thank you so much, Mayor Council Jennifer Graves, Deputy Director for the Office of Economic Development. And so, of course, thank you to Keith. One thing I would, with this slide, I'd like to highlight is that excluding the public right-of-ways, Gilbert has approximately 38,000 acres of land, split about 70-30 between residential and non-residential land uses. Of the 4 types of non-residential land, so that's commercial, industrial, office, and public lands, public comprises the single largest share of non-residential land in Gilbert at 12%. Town-wide, only 4.3% of the commercial, industrial, or office designated land is vacant and available for future employment-oriented development at this time. And as Keith also mentioned earlier in the presentation, the proposed change would represent the loss of an additional 11 acres of non-residential land in one of Gilbert's only employment corridors. The Northwest Growth Area represents 21% of Gilbert's total employment, and this area continues to be one of the most sought-after locations in the East Valley and in Gilbert for employment-oriented business growth and attraction. The market is experiencing a surge in demand for industrial and flex real estate. Since July, 60% of the new leads coming into the Office of Economic Development have requested industrial locations, while non-residential vacancy in the Northwest Growth Area has dropped from 10.2% to 5.8% in just the last year. As you can see on the chart about Northwest Growth Area non-residential land uses, vacant acreage for additional non-residential development in this critical employment area is extremely low, and preservation of these non-residential land uses is vital to Gilbert's mission to become the city of the future. The applicant has previously asserted that this property is not well suited for any other type of non-residential uses. However, our experience and research suggests that this is not accurate. Staff has spoken with developers and brokers working in the Southeast Valley, and both Jones Lang LaSalle as well as Gilbert Spectrum Developer have indicated that this specific property is of interest to them and their clients for industrial flex development that would complement the surrounding land uses and employment uses. It's also been argued that staff-initiated research for potential reinvestment opportunities in this area support the need for this site to transition to multifamily housing, when in fact council heard at the November 9th council retreat that no plans have been finalized in this area and that visioning is very much in the draft stages. At that retreat, council directed staff to, among other things, begin public outreach to understand the preferences of the community and report back to council for further direction. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Keith for the remainder of his presentation.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank you, Jen, for that important information. So as we get near the end of our presentation, we would like to reiterate that we are not opposed to multifamily, but just wanted to quickly share with you on this slide that shows that we have 167 acres, approximately, of vacant multifamily land within the town boundaries, which equates to almost 5,000 units approved and not constructed. So I wanted to reiterate that and show you that on this slide. I know it has a little more information on there, but I just wanted to reiterate how much vacant multifamily land that we have left in the town. So on this slide are some graphics created by our town economic development department, and they have done a fantastic job assisting us, that shows all multifamily that is existing, under construction, and currently proposed. Oh, it's kind of cut off at the top, within a 12-mile radius from the site. As you can see there, I know there's a lot of numbers on the screen. As you can see, there are nearly 1,900 total multifamily properties and 185, 585,000 units of multifamily within a 12-mile radius. And you can also see on the left is a 30-minute commute shed, which is a little bit larger area than that 12-mile radius, but you can see how many multifamily units there are within this radius from the site. The next slide shows a 3 and a 5 mile radius, 3 miles on the left and 5 miles on the right. Again, you can see that as we zoom into this graphic a little bit more, that all the multifamily within 3 and 5 miles. In short, there's a total of about 6,400 multifamily units within 3 miles. And there's about a total of 21,000 units within 5 miles from the site. Also note that within a 1 mile radius of the site, which I don't have that graphic for you, along Arizona Avenue shows that there is a total of 72 units that are currently under construction on a mile away, and there's 250 units proposed with construction to start in April 2022. So this last graphic that I wanted to show you tonight is an overlap that shows how both of these radius graphics, 3 and 5 miles, relate to one another. So I thought this was kind of a cool graphic to show you where that is in relationship to the subject site. So lastly, public participation. The applicant has met all minimum public notification requirements, held 2 neighborhood meetings. Please note that staff was recently made aware of 44 letters of support sent to the council members, which have been included in your packet. However, in the last week, I was notified by the commercial property owner to the north that he was recently made aware of this request and is opposed to the negative impact on his property. Town staff has also received within the last several days, and emails were coming in today, we received 1 phone call from a resident who is opposed and 13 public comment survey responses from residents in the adjacent neighborhoods who have stated they are opposed to the applicant's request. So, I'm almost done. So, based on what we just informed you, staff is recommending denial of the proposed Alta Gilbert minor general plan amendment and rezone due to the loss of commercial land on a major arterial corner that is not located in and around an intense mixed-use environment, and it lacks unique site design elements and horizontal integration between different use types. Also, the negative impact on the building setbacks of the industrial and commercial developments and the negative visual impact on abutting residential developments to the east of the site is the reason why the main reasons why town staff is recommending denial of both of these cases before you tonight. So this concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. Economic development staff can answer any questions that you may have. And I also believe the applicant is here tonight, and I'm sure they have a presentation as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Don't move, please. Councilmember Anderson has a question.
Where do I begin? Where was his presentation on the Cooper and Baseline parcel that had existing buildings on it and was being converted to apartments?
Mayor Peterson, Councilmember Anderson, I'm not sure. I did the design review case for that one. I know there were a lot of residents on that one that were highly opposed to it, but I'm not exactly sure what your question is. But
my question is this is being referred to as a prime commercial piece. It's been a prime commercial piece for over 30 years that I'm aware of, probably longer than that. For the 13 years or so that I was the planning director, I can't remember if or when anybody even approached me to develop this site. And I know you're aware of the ULI study for the Northwest Corridor. And the ULI study suggests what in this corridor? It suggests that we want commercial development, we want mixed-use development, but we have to have residential development to support that. And if we keep turning them down, especially on parcels that have no foreseeable future to be developed, and I realize that economic development believes that there is interest in the property, bring me a letter of intent, bring me a contract so I can see that. I'm just at a loss how we brought up issues on this project that we haven't had before. Talking about traffic generation, talking about water use. We've never had that before for similar projects. I'm just really confused about where we're going with this, and I'm not buying right now that this will develop something other than what is being shown.
Mayor Peterson, Councilmember Anderson, I respect all of your comments. I think this site is quite a bit different than the one on Cooper and Baseline. That is a redevelopment site that was redeveloped. Obviously, there was commercial there before that had vacant suites, and they've chosen to redevelop that, and it was off of the principal arterial corner. It was not right on the hard corner. And also, that project is also a multifamily medium designation. It's not a multifamily high. Multifamily high, as I've stated in my presentation, was envisioned by the town to go in much more dense urban environments, whereas multifamily medium is a little bit different. So those two projects are quite a bit different from each other in that way, or the zoning district zoning categories. So I think that is a little bit different from those two project sites. And like I said, that one's not right on a major arterial corner. It's off the corner, kind of way off, set back off the road, which would be more appropriate in a situation like that versus right on the arterial corner. It's super highly visible. So I think that's the difference with the project. I don't know what else I can add to that, but I think that's the difference between the two projects and why we would not support this project. And we also, I don't believe we recommended support on that one either, but I know it got approved. But they're quite a bit different from each other, the two projects.
Mm-hmm.
Hope that all makes sense and provides a little bit of
it doesn't
help
yet.
to you.
Councilmember Anderson, you're making me laugh.
Yeah.
Councilmember Tilke, do you have a question?
Actually, just a comment to Councilmember Anderson. I wish this presentation would come up more often when we look at removing commercial inventory from Gilbert. A lot of these issues raised here were the same ones I had at Baseline and Cooper and McQueen and Guadalupe, quite frankly. And I think if we would have had a more in-depth presentation from staff, maybe other decisions would have been made. So I would like to see more, not less of this.
I just don't want to see this site sit vacant for another 35 years.
Councilmember Anderson, hold those thoughts and we'll get to the discussion in a bit. Councilmember Yentes, you had a question?
Maybe it's more of a comment, but I guess I'll piggyback on the confusion and just say, we did have a pretty in-depth conversation and presentation just last week at the council retreat on, making a pretty big swath of this northwest area of Gilbert a redevelopment area. And so I'm hearing a bit of mixed messages as far as the desirability and how much interest we're getting from potentially different users in this area. And yet that would be counterintuitive to, needing to, designate this area to gin up that kind of supported interest. So a little bit of a disconnect there for me as well. But, that the point that connects this project specifically is just that has been being discussed since 2018. So maybe this is a rhetorical question, but, how long are we going to continue to, go through this process of visioning from the town's perspective while property owners sit on their property? And obviously there's a whole host of reasons why that can be problematic, and expecting people to just wait when this continues to be a very evolving process. It's hard for people to make plans and, dedicate resources and there's one thing that's from the town's perspective, which is visionary, and then there's, the people in the marketplace that go out and have to make real decisions about building things. And so I guess more of a comment, but look forward to the presentation and other comments from the public, and thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Vice Mayor Kaprowski, did you have any questions for Keith before I ask for the presentation by the applicant?
I do not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Keith. I'm sure we'll be calling you back up.
Okay, thank you.
And if the applicant would like to make a presentation, Mr. Sean Lake for the applicant.
Good evening, Mayor, Council members. My name is Sean Lake. I'm here on behalf of the property owners and Wood Partners to talk about this project at McQueen and Elliott. First, before I get started, I want to take the opportunity to introduce Clay Richardson, who's with Wood Partners. He is the one that is proposing to develop this property. Those of you who are familiar with Wood Partners are familiar with some of the very nice high-end multifamily projects they do throughout the valley. They can be found in downtown Chandler, right next to the San Marcos Historic Golf Course. They can be found in Chandler and downtown Phoenix. They do first-class, high-end multifamily projects. They do not do affordable housing type projects. The projects that they do, quite honestly, the average household income in the projects that they are building is around $100,000. So these are very nice employment hub apartment where employees want to have their employees live. So it's a great use to be next to an employment hub where these employees can then go live. And we think this is a great and prime location for the insertion of some new residential that hasn't been seen in this area for employment type uses, this type of residential, in a very, very, very long time. So we appreciate Clay being here this evening. I'll also point out, Clay lives here. He lives and has lived for over 20 years directly east of this property. And so he lives in that neighborhood directly to the east. He is a local guy. He is a local developer that has done projects all over the state, all over the valley, very nice high-end projects, but he wants to do something in his own backyard. He wants to do something special in an area that he has lived for several decades. And so we have an opportunity to have a local developer who lives there, who is going to continue to live there if this project gets approved, who wants to see something nice for his family to go to. I also wanted to take the opportunity to announce we do have a letter of intent for that commercial corner. We have those that are familiar with Square One. Square One is a restaurant concept local developer. They have Bourbon and Bones. For those that are familiar with Bourbon and Bones at the Santan area, is a very nice restaurant. Square One has given a letter of intent, and they want to do a concept restaurant, sit-down restaurant on this corner. So we're excited to have that local use on the corner. We think that will be a great addition to the project that we're trying to develop here. And so we think that will be a great use on that corner. So we're excited to announce that here this evening. Let me go through the project. I think staff did an excellent job of presenting where the site is. I'm not going to repeat that or go over that. This site has been zoned community commercial. Now, I joked at the Planning Commission, but it's true. This site was zoned, or they were working on zoning this project when I was in high school. And so those that can see my gray beard and the gray in my hair, it has been a very long time that this property owner has been holding this site, trying to develop it for retail uses, 35, 36 years, for a very, very, very long time, and continue to pay taxes on it, trying to get a user in this location. We've seen a lot of development come and go in this corridor over those 35 years, and this site has been passed over. We are proposing to change the zoning after this 35 years to something that we think it will allow the property owner a right to use their land that is consistent and compatible with the area, a good use that we think will fit right into an employment area. If we think of some of the higher employment areas around the valley, you have multifamily mixed into those employment districts, employment areas. Multifamily is needed. When a big user comes to town, one of the first things that they talk to is they want to know about housing and where can my people live. So when they're coming, they want to know about housing. That is important for employers that are coming to town. Again, I've already talked about this. The uses, what do we do with this piece of property? If I were on the council and I were sitting in your shoes, I'd say, okay, what do we do with that piece? It's sat vacant for 35 years and retail is not working. We look up the road to the north, we see that retail hasn't really been successful. We look a mile to the south, we see that retail really hasn't been successful and has been struggling. So we're not sure that retail's the best fit here. Office, we think, has struggled in this area as well. In fact, the staff report even admitted that we don't think that office is an appropriate land use for this property. So we really think it comes down to a residential use or an industrial use. And what is the best use of this land? Residential, multifamily residential, or industrial use? Industrial use has their development standards. You could build a building up to 50 feet in light industrial LI zone, or you could build a multifamily project. What's more intense for the area? We went out and we held meetings with the neighbors, and we talked to neighbors, and we also talked to the businesses in the area. Not only the people who live there, but the people who also live and work there, and got a substantial number of support letters. I'm sure you had in your packet of the 50, I think it was 50 letters of support in your packet of the people who not only live, but also live and work in the area. This project is supported, or comes to you supported, by the Chamber of Commerce as something that will provide a quality housing option in the area. One of the things that we did is we did an economic analysis to compare industrial to multifamily, because if I were in your shoes, you just don't represent this one property owner and what's the best interest of the property owner, but you represent the town as a whole. And the town wants the highest and best use of the property, as does the property owner. And so we had Elliott Pollock, who is a very renowned economist in the state, prepare an economic report to compare these different uses. What would be the beneficial to the town as a whole versus with an industrial development versus a multifamily development. And the findings were quite staggering. This project would produce $3 million more to the town coffers in one-time construction and fees with a multifamily project versus an industrial project. This project would produce 4 times more in ongoing revenue as a multifamily project as opposed to an industrial project. This project would produce 3 times more revenue for the school districts and the schools as a multifamily project as opposed to an industrial project. So from a town perspective, we want to allow property owners to have a right to develop their property, but we also want it to be beneficial to the town. This use that we're proposing produces more revenue. It produces a significant investment in the area that we haven't seen in a long time, and it will bring people and better architecture, we think, with multifamily than with an industrial development that will help activate this area and kind of help that McQueen corridor with a very nice high-end project. This, I'm sure you looked at this and read through the Elliott Pollock study that did this analysis that talked about how this will generate more revenue. So I won't spend a lot of time on this because I'm sure you read through that study that we submitted in our packet. Here's a letter from the Chamber of Commerce saying that they've looked at this area and they do support residential here. One of the things that staff brought up, there was a lot of talk in the general plan area when there were general plan workshops talking about this northwest corridor. And one of the recommendations was, hey, we think residential option in this area is a good option. It might help spur some of that redevelopment. And so general plan workshop even supported residential. The ULI study that was referenced that's a 2-year-old study that talks specifically about this area, had one of the suggestions thinking, maybe we need to do something in this area, and multifamily residential is something that we need to do in this area. It's interesting, the staff was bringing up all the multifamily going on in the area. We did a quick analysis of that. The town of Gilbert currently right now has a 2.3% vacancy rate for multifamily. That's astonishingly low. And what happens when you have an undersupply of demand, or an undersupply of supply and an oversupply of demand? Well, we have a 28% rent increase in multifamily this last year because there is an undersupply in the town of Gilbert. And so we think the ULI study was right. It will not only help this corridor with some investment and new capital dollars and people actually in the area working and shopping and living, it will help this corridor, we believe, to not be the panacea or the fix for it all, but it will be that first step of somebody investing something in this area and people living and working and shopping and eating in this area. We went out and met with the neighbors and businesses. The stars represent letters of support that we have received. You can kind of see we really focused at this intersection and obtained letters of support from a lot of people who live and work in this area. So the preliminary plan that has been proposed, and I'm not going to go over this, we think it's a very high quality project. It has a lot of amenities. I kind of shudder when it says, oh, these are just typical amenities. These aren't. This is a very high-end, nice project. Wood Partners does that. We've been through their projects in Scottsdale and in Phoenix and in downtown Chandler. They do a very, very nice project. This is not a typical multifamily. This is a very nice high-end project. And as I mentioned, the residents who typically live in Wood Partners projects have a household income of about $100,000. So we think it's something that's very, very nice. As staff indicated, Planning Commission recommended approval of this project. We originally submitted the application when we submitted for a PAD. We had deviations. That's why we had a PAD. Planning Commission told us, get rid of the deviations. We want no deviations. So we worked with staff and redesigned the plan and eliminated all the deviations. And what deviations we do have are exceeding standard deviations. And so the PAD is tying us to those excess standards where we have excess building setbacks than what the code requires. We have more space between buildings than what the code requires. We have more recreational amenities than what is required. And I mentioned the sit-down restaurant on the corner, but we exceed the standards, and that's what the PAD is tying us to, is a higher-end nice project. Here are some of the representative quality images of what this project will look like. Very nice. I don't know that anybody disputes that Wood Partners does a very nice quality project. Again, very nice high-end that will be developed here. So with that, we think this is a good use for this property. We think this property owner has waited long enough. We think there should be some accommodation to allow this property owner to develop their property with something that we think is consistent and compatible with this area. And we would request that you approve this application for rezoning. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Any questions? I see Councilmember Anderson turning your mic on.
Yes, thank you. Can you give us an idea why this property's been skipped over for 35 years?
When a lot of the development, you would know more so than I, having been the planning director for a lot of years in the town. We did see a lot of development with the islands, and it went forward, and it kind of went down into Warner. We saw commercial development going in at Warner and McQueen. That commercial shopping center thrived for a lot of years, but it has since, this area has struggled and transformed, it's kind of fell by the wayside and has struggled. You drive through that center at Warner now, I think that's the Goodwill Center, you would call it now. It's struggling right now. You go to the north, it's struggle. I think this area has gone through ebbs and flows, several over the many years, and we're starting to see some deterioration that we don't want to happen. And so we want to see some investment in this area that will help bring it out. I think the comment was made, we don't want to see this northwest quadrant of Gilbert become like the south part of Mesa. We want to see some new investment. We want to see some things happening here, and that's what we're trying to do, is bring some new investment. I don't know why the retailers didn't go here. They went down the road a mile. They went over to Gilbert Road. They went elsewhere.
Well, how many acres?
People focused around freeways.
Yeah, how many acres of commercial exist at that intersection now?
There's existing, I'm guessing around 8 to 10 acres on the southwest corner. There's an existing retail shopping center on the southeast corner, and then there's commercial existing on the northeast corner as well. So there's either zoned or developed on all four corners, and we think that is too much.
During the staff's presentation, there were some concerns with design elements. Is your client willing to work to address those concerns? I have some concerns too about the massing along the streets. I think that's something that we need to concern ourselves with design when we get down the road.
Absolutely, unequivocally, yes. We have stated that from the beginning that we're willing to work. We haven't submitted a site plan or design review application to the town. We're willing to work with the town on that process. And if it gets appealed up to the council, we'll work with the council. We want to work with the council and the planning staff to have a very nice high-end project at this project. That's what Wood Partners and Clay, who lives in the area, would like to see.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Kaprowski, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions here on the dais? Mr. Lake, you and I have looked at this project, this property, at least twice since I've been on the council, and both times it was residential. It was two different types of residential. I haven't seen anyone come forward with industrial or commercial or anything of the likes for that property. Have you talked to anybody that has wanted to come forward with this property?
Mayor, I've only worked in the town for 27 years, but I have worked on this property several times, some of which we brought forward to the town and presented to the town staff and the planning commissioner, and some we did not. And I've never worked on a non-residential project on this site.
I couldn't remember any. It was always residential on this location. So thank you for that. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Lake at this time? We'll ask you to come back potentially. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and ask the residents to come up and speak. We did receive 13 emails opposed that have been mentioned. We received 44 or 45 letters in support, one that has been pulled back as opposed. And I have 2 slips from people that do not wish to speak this evening but are in favor of this project. And then I have, I think, 5 residents that would like to speak. I will call the first person and have the second person on deck to be ready to come down and speak. First person is Richard Blake. If you would come down to the podium, introduce yourself, and just let us know if you are a resident of the town of Gilbert. Next up will be Earl Schaefer.
Mayor, 3-minute time.
Thank you, Patrick. 3 minutes, please.
Mayor, councilors, good evening. Thank you for having me here. I want to be brief. I've lived in Gilbert for quite a few years now. I'm a homeowner. I don't live too far away from this particular development. And I think this is a good use for the property. In particular, when I was driving to Mesquite High School on a regular basis, I saw that as one of the empty lots. I thought, this could be better. I also live near the Cooper Baseline apartment project. And when that was announced, my first thought was, well, at least something will be in there. That's been empty for a long time. It's been empty since I've lived in the town. And it doesn't seem right, but these are the decisions that get made, aren't they? Overall, I'm very happy and pleased with my town government. I think you have a vision. I think you work at it. I see downtown, I see the Heritage District, I see developments here and there. My wife and I agree, we live in a great town. I think this is a good use of this property. I think it's a proper use of it now, given all of the factors that are at play, and it's been empty for how long now? And I don't hear anything about a competing purpose to it anymore. So I strongly encourage you to look this over carefully and to vote in favor of it. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Earl Schaefer next, and then it will be Stephen Steele.
Hi, my name's Earl Schaefer. I live on the islands, or in the islands, right across from the proposed property that you're talking about. And the one thing I noticed, then I'll go on the other stuff, the one thing I noticed by the gentleman that just made that presentation is all the people that he spoke to were commercial properties. He didn't talk to one person in the islands. I did speak to people in the islands. There was a sign that was put up, I guess, and I don't know how long it is, but I don't look at signs. But I did see the sign that was there that apparently has been there for a while that said that there was a proposal made. And I probably cross that a couple times a week. And most of my neighbors probably do too and never noticed it. But the first time I ever heard about this thing was yesterday. Nobody talked to me. This gentleman up here never talked to anybody in the islands. I know a lot of people in the islands, and I tell you right now that if they would have heard this, if they would have known about it, they would have been here, or at least they would have sent you a notice. Every person that I spoke to is negative, dead negative, that is in the islands about this whole proposal. It's going to cause a lot of problems for the people in the islands, and we all know it. One of the reasons why it hasn't been made residential in the past was the gentleman before said there was some really good reasons why not to put residential there, but there's some other reasons that are even more important, and that's the people who live in that area, not the commercial, the people that live there, right across from that place. It's going to bring in more people in the community. There's going to be a school problem because you're going to have to increase the schools. You're going to have a police problem because you're going to have to increase the police department. You're going to have road problems because there'll be increases in the road usage. There's a lot of other little things, and I'm sure I've got some people following me. They're going to talk to you about the same things. But all those things have to be taken into account. This gentleman right here never took into account any of, Mr. Anderson, never took any account of the people that live in the community. Come down and live in the community and then tell me you'd like to have that property made residential, especially the residential that he's talking about. That's not what I would consider high end, all right? And none of the people that I live around would consider that high end. And as far as commercial, maybe the price is wrong. There's a lot of reasons why you're not selling the commercial property. Right across the street, that Exxon seems to be doing fairly well over there, and I noticed that all the shops over in the other cross catty-counter there are doing fairly well too. The shopping mall that he brought up that's got the Goodwill unit in there, maybe if they put some good shops in there, people would stop shopping there. I know years ago when there was a supermarket there, they did damn well. Okay? So get some good stores in there and you'll see people going there. That's what the problem is. It's not what this gentleman just got through saying. It's not because there's not people that want to shop. That is a high-end community that I live in, and we live right across the street on the other side of Elliott is also high-end, and they don't want that property there either. They don't want a commercial, a residential put in there, not that type of residential that you're talking about. You want to put some single units in there, maybe, but not high-rise apartments, multi-apartments. And $100,000, that's what he's saying per unit? Not even close.
Mr. Schaefer, your time is up. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Steele, Stephen Steele next, and then Roger Weissman, I think it says.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stephen Steele. I'm a resident of Gilbert. When people ask me, where do you live, what's your cross streets, it's Elliott and McQueen. My home is within about 5 blocks of Elliott and McQueen. It's a beautiful home. It's a single-family residence, and for residential development in this area, if you needed to rezone that as residential and make it single-family residential to coincide with what is directly across the street and what is in the area to the south and east away from the other commercial areas, it's all single-family residence, I think that might be agreeable to the people who live in that area. Some of my greatest fears of that residential going up there is 278 units, 278 people trying to exit through 3 driveways, going to work every morning, coming home every night on 2 very busy streets. If you look the police records up, which I wish I would have, you'll find that there are a lot of accidents at McQueen and Elliott. It's just a bad intersection. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to do is just quote some of the statistics that Mr. Newman went over directly from the first news article that I read. Within 12 miles, there's 1,989 multifamily properties, totaling 185,170 units. That's a ton of multifamily units available. Further down, it says that in all, approximately 5,000 multifamily units have been permitted in Gilbert that are not yet constructed. So there's another 5,000 that are coming up already that we don't need this additional 278 units. I just think it's a bad plan for that intersection. I think it's a bad plan for our neighborhood. It's going to be bad for our schools. Islands Elementary can't take on even 278 new students if it's 1 child per family. The high school there at Mesquite High School cannot take on 278 students, just again, 1 student per family. I think this is a really bad idea for Gilbert. I think it either needs to stay as a light industrial or potentially single-family residential at the very least. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Steele. Roger Weiss, I'm sorry, I can't read your last name. Weissman. I don't see anyone moving, so I'll move to Tracy Robb, please.
Hi, my name is Tracy Robb, and I've lived in Gilbert for 21 years. We're a military family. We've lived all over the country. When we decided to settle, when my husband retired or kind of got out of the Navy, we chose Gilbert because it was such a sweet town, and it was family-oriented, and there was all these great little family homes. It's been kind of distressing a little bit. I mean, we understand that things grow. All of the apartments, they're everywhere. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with apartments. I mean, my grown kids all live in apartments. But in the area that we live, this gentleman, and I don't know him, the developer, he said that the residents had all been notified or he'd been talking to them. Well, I live in the El Dorado Lakes community, and I have a lot of friends in there, and I found out about this afternoon, or actually this morning, and I sent out some emails. No one had heard of this. No one had any idea. I mean, they were shocked. Same thing with my friends in the islands. We weren't talked to about this. There's so much traffic on McQueen on a daily basis. It's just unbelievable. I have nothing against necessarily apartments as a general thing. I mean, there's apartments all up and down Arizona Avenue. They're all over the Santan Mall. I just don't really understand why it has to go in there. It doesn't really make sense to me as far as the location. And I just really want Gilbert to kind of keep who Gilbert is. And I think this is really wrong for our neighborhood. And like I said, I know a ton. If people had known about this earlier, I found out today.
Our land use projections in the town and where we're at right now, and what we're trying to do in that northwest corridor is a very important issue for you because you may be included in that corridor at some point. But thank you for your time, and with that, I will be supporting this tonight, Mayor, and I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Councilmember Anderson. Councilmember Tukey, I see your hand.
Yeah, thank you. The one thing I disagree with Councilman Anderson in is I don't find this a hard decision in this particular case. This property has sat, and we've had residential come several times, and it's been turned down several times because of what is happening south of this property, which sat for 30-some years before it ever started moving, with Northrop Grumman moving in and the other development. When this property came forward, I felt very strongly that continuing that development from the south into this north product and connecting to what else is going on in those business park areas there was extremely important. But I shared your concern about, well, where's the interest? So I did a little homework, and I called Mike Orff, who represents the Spectrum project south of there, and he made it very clear that they're very interested in expanding what's going on the south side into that north parcel. However, and I'm not in the development business, so I just want to make that clear. So I don't understand the ins and outs of when property's available, when somebody is in negotiations. Do you go in and try to undercut somebody else to try to get a deal going? I don't know if that's the way it works in that business, but what I do know is that Mr. Orr said that until the current project comes to a close, he was not going to insert himself into a discussion other than if asked, say, yes, they did have interest. And so when we ask for something in writing, it's very hard to do when there's a plan in place and you're going through all of the entitlement processes for that particular piece of property. So when I think of an infill project, I consider an infill project one that is not on a major corner and not surrounded by industrial. That, to me, that doesn't qualify as an infill project. It should be a continuation of a business product there. So for me, it's not a hard decision. I respect Sean, I respect Clay. Thank you very much for the time that you've spent with us. I think it's probably a great project somewhere else. This council had no problems telling a recent applicant that it was a great project, just didn't belong where it was. So we have done that. We've made those hard decisions. And in this particular case, I'm prepared to try to wait and see this develop as it should be developed in my mind as light industrial and connecting those business parks and not giving away precious non-residential land as we go towards build out. So I will be a no on this.
Thank you, Councilmember Tilke. Councilmember September.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to thank everybody who sent me emails and who came here tonight to speak. You took time out of your lives to be here, to sit through this really long hearing, to articulate what you wanted to communicate to us, and I appreciate you being part of the process, no matter what side of the issue you were on, because I got emails from both sides, and I think that's healthy. I did meet with the applicant, got to meet Clay, and I'm so glad that he's a part of our Gilbert community. He lives near this proposed development. I really like the Alta product. Got to see, not only photo simulations of what it would be, we got to see some actual empirical photos of products that they've done in the past. It seems like a really nice product, very nice amenities, but I'm having a hard time with this particular location for this product. The Northwest Corridor is Gilbert's largest and oldest employment and revenue generating area. It's a very important part of Gilbert, and it's a part that's so important that right now the town is entertaining the idea of including this area in a redevelopment area. And that the intent of that is to attract new interest and new investment in this corridor, and hopefully that it will do that. I also read the ULI study, and it did talk about residential helping this particular area, but it also said something else which is kind of conflicting for me, because it also talked about protecting the employment inventory and the ability of this area to generate continued employment growth. Property rights are important, but property rights are important for everybody. And one of the things that I don't like about this is that it puts the burden of an increased setback on the parcel to the north that is undeveloped, and to the parcel to the west that, even though it is developed, today it's developed, but who knows what that would be in the future and what someone might want to do with that parcel. And I think it unfairly puts a burden on those parcels. I won't be able to support this proposal tonight, and those are the reasons why. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember September. Vice Mayor Kaprowski, would you like to comment?
I don't have any additional comments to what others have stated this evening. It is a difficult decision, and hopefully we'll see how it turns out tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Yantes?
Thank you, Mayor, for the opportunity to talk about this item. Appreciate everybody coming forward tonight, sending emails. I know there's always a consistent frustration because, there's kind of legal notices that are required that, the developer checks the box and they only reach so many people in the community, and then there's cutoffs and boundaries, and they don't need to exceed those. And part of that, in my opinion, is you got to kind of cut it off somewhere, because you could exhaust the number of people who have a property interest in whatever the development proposal is. And so I think it's been mentioned, this is, we talked about from a property rights standpoint, that's always the perspective. Fundamentally, I go into these kinds of proposals when they're rezones. I look at them a little bit more carefully, because now we're talking about decisions that people have made previously based upon what was agreed upon in voter-approved general plans and such, and so making changes to that, I do raise the level of scrutiny. As far as this proposal, I do think that deferentially that the impacts to the property owners surrounding this area are either people that are probably the most impacted are the ones that are most supportive. The businesses. We always hear issues with traffic or schools. Water is a new one. I haven't seen that on previous presentations. But all those things we do have to take an objective look at, make sure that we're not negatively impacting surrounding private property holders. I don't believe this project will do that. I graduated from Mesquite High School. We had probably over 3,000 students that went to that school, and over the years, those numbers have definitely dwindled. The schools in that area are in desperate need of more students to be enrolled, and so I do look at this as kind of an opportunity to, increase the people in the area that are going to support, future development. The schools and the resources we need to invest in everything like traffic and better roads and things like that. So I feel comfortable where this is at right now, and I have no idea obviously where the vote's going to be, but happy to make a motion when everybody's had their time to speak.
Thank you, Councilmember Yantis. Councilmember Hendricks. Okay. I look at this property a little bit differently. It has, I've talked about what I think infill is and what infill isn't. This piece to me does come under the infill, in my opinion, because it has right in, right out only from McQueen, right in, right out only on Elliott. It has a well site on the corner that inhibits the what can be developed there. The support that we've the letters of support that we've received, Councilmember Yantes just pointed out from the commercial, is very telling, because I've watched the commercial on that southeast corner of McQueen and Elliott just suffer over the years, and I've seen businesses come and go, and commercial in our world has changed dramatically, and the pandemic changed it even more. We're seeing huge companies that are closing down and becoming online only, deliver straight to your house only. They're going to pick up some warehouses here and there to be able to, or working with other major commercial stores. Smaller businesses are going into larger commercial stores. So we're seeing a huge difference. I have never had anyone mention, I think I had economic development mentioned to me once that someone might be interested in this property to park delivery vehicles on. So I don't really consider that employment or light industrial. It might fit that in the code, but I don't really consider that employment or light industrial. You'd have vehicles coming and going day and night to making deliveries out of that location, and that didn't come to fruition. The property to the south has been being planned and developed for many years now, and I haven't had them approach to come forward with this property. Like I mentioned earlier, I've had, I think, at least 2 residential with Mr. Lake himself, besides this one, for that property. I haven't had anyone else come forward with commercial or industrial. I struggled with this because the neighbors are going to be impacted. The traffic is difficult in that location. No matter what develops there, that won't change. There will still be traffic. There will still be
issues coming and going. I've driven through there at 4 or 5 o'clock at night at Elliott and McQueen. I live off of Elliott, east of there. I know what that traffic looks like. And I like to visit Lisa's Rum Cakes, which is right behind Northrop Grumman. The schools, great comment. A couple of years ago, we talked about a multifamily project, and there's actually a calculation of residents that live in multifamily complexes and how many children actually go to the surrounding schools, or the neighborhood schools, as we like to refer to them. It's actually very low. In Arizona, we have school choice, and for the most part, parents are driving their children to whatever school they want them to. A lot of times when you're living in multifamily and you have children, it's because you're in transition from something else. You're transitioning from moving from another state to Gilbert, moving from another city in Arizona to Gilbert, and you're waiting for a home to be built. And so this is a temporary situation for you. These are high-end developed multifamily. And the only reason that it fits into MFH is by like 0.1% of density, because it's 25.1, and that's what makes it MFH. Otherwise, it would be, if we could get under that 25, it would be MFM. It would be multifamily medium. But because it has that 1/10 over, it goes up to MFH, which I think sounds a lot more drastic to most of us when you're talking about a multifamily high residential product. I want to see us bring residents to the area. I sat through the ULI discussion in our council chambers that are under construction. I watched almost the entire presentation that day, and I heard the discussion about multifamily, and I don't really think that full discussion is represented in the report. From what I heard those folks talking about that day, these are people that are in the development business talking about exactly what that Northwest corridor needs. There's another location up at McQueen and Guadalupe that was rezoned to multifamily in 2015. I remember that because it's the only night that I missed a council meeting. And I would have voted against that one because I didn't find that one to be an infill project. I didn't think it was the right location for multifamily. This one, I think it fits and I think it works. I think I'm super excited that you have a letter of intent from the company that you mentioned for a restaurant. I met with Clay and he said no matter what, he would bring something to that spot that we would love. He lives within walking distance, if not biking distance, from this location and drives by it every single day. So I will be in support of this project, and I will be, Councilmember Rientes said, interested to see how the vote goes. You said you would like to make a motion, if you would.
Motion to approve item 18.
Thank you, Councilmember. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Rientes, a second by Councilmember Anderson. Please vote. Motion passes with a 5-2 vote. I want to reiterate what's been said here tonight. Thank you all for coming out for this discussion. We appreciate all of your time. We appreciate all of the facts that you brought forward, and look forward to Clay and Mr. Lake bringing a really great project to design review. Thank you. We need to take a 5 to 10 minute break, please, because we have another topic to get into, and there's no way we're going to make it. Thank you. We'll recess for about 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, 30-second warning, 30-second warning. Thanks, everybody. 30-second warning. All right, we're going to get started. Coming back from recess to our regular meeting, Kelly Fost is going to do a very short presentation on the fees because we're just here to basically kick off this discussion this evening. Thank you, Kelly. One second. I can't hear Kelly's mic. Is that she's too tall? Again, not a problem I have. No, I still can't hear her through that mic. It's not coming through our speakers here.
If I turn it off and back on, does that help?
There we go. Perfect. Thank you, Kelly.
Reboot. IT guys tell me that all the time. Okay, so we are updating the water system development fees. We talked that with the, we needed to do it in order to include the increased capacity at the North Water Treatment Plant. Not the rebuild of the existing capacity, only the new capacity from 45 to 60 MGD. That's what's included in the study. There is a long timeline, and this is a very collaborative and transparent process. So even before that notice of intent in late August, I sent an email out with a copy of the study, a request for feedback and information from the 3 stakeholder groups that usually interact with us on this process. Earlier today, we received an email from one of them. They had some questions. We were able to answer it, and they didn't feel like they needed to be here tonight. Working with one of the other stakeholder groups, I was able to go to their policy committee meeting in October. They have some additional questions, so I'll go again in December and continue to work with them on their questions. So very collaborative process with lots of public input. If anybody else has questions, I'm happy to answer them from the public as well. So tonight's meeting is a public hearing on the land use assumptions in the infrastructure improvement plan, and then the adoption of that information wouldn't be until January. Then there would be a notice of intent, public hearing, and adoption for the actual fees, and then they wouldn't be effective until June of next year, so a long process. The land use assumptions do assume that Gilbert will continue to grow, probably more slowly over time as we reach build out, but continuing to grow over the 10-year period. The infrastructure improvement plan follows all of the state statute guidelines. It only includes the infrastructure needed for growth, and again, only includes that 15 MGD, only the expansion part of the North Water Treatment Plant. The fees would be increasing by about 37%, which is quite a large increase, but it is the amount that's needed to cover the growth-related projects that are planned. The good news is that we have one of our other system development fees that should be finishing. So we have about $3.4 million of expenses yet to cover in that area. Last year, we had $4.1 million of revenue. So if growth continues in a similar pattern towards the end of this fiscal year, in the May or June time period, we should be able to stop collecting that fee, which would be before the new increases to the water fee are in effect. So hopefully that timing works out really well. What that net effect looks like between the two would be about a $313 increase for the single family side. And then we have a commercial example here where it would be about a $1,500 increase for this commercial example. Obviously, commercial, the makeup of square feet and water meter size are different for every development, but we tried to provide at least some knowledge here with this example. And then there should be another slide after this if somebody could help me advance it.
Might need to reboot.
There we go. So tonight we are here to get public feedback on land use assumptions and the infrastructure improvements. The next step would be adoption of those assumptions at the January 11th meeting. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kelly. Any questions for Kelly at this time?
Mayor, could I just make a comment?
Absolutely.
Just for the public to understand that system development fees, many people in everyday language may call them impact fees, but they're fees that are associated with new growth. So it's only on if you build a new home or if you build a new building, business, or through that permitting process of growth. Not this isn't going to be part of anything that me as a resident would be paying.
Mayor, Councilmember Tilke, that's exactly correct.
And these don't have anything to do with the bond that just passed.
These do not have anything to do with transportation improvements. It's for water infrastructure.
Councilmember Hentges.
Other than the Home Builders Association, has there been any feedback from other stakeholders?
Yes, the Home Builders Association did provide an email earlier today. They asked questions earlier. We were able to give them answers, and they felt like the answers were responsive for what they needed.
Thank you for forwarding that email to us, Kelly, and for being so responsive to his questions, to Mr. Moll's questions. Vice Mayor Kaprowski, do you have any questions for Kelly or comments?
I don't have any questions or comments. I think a lot of the information was covered in our fall financial retreat, or our fall retreat.
Thank you. Councilmember Hendricks, any comments? Thank you. Okay, Kelly, thank you very much. I don't remember if I opened the public hearing, but I opened the public hearing. I will close the public hearing, bring it back to discussion and a motion. I would say a motion to move forward with the process of the fee hearing, the fee hearing structure.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember September, seconded by Councilmember Tilke. Please vote. And motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Moving on to administrative items. Boards and commissions. Item number 20, consider activating a community engagement task force, setting the assigned tasks and duties, number of task force members, and the means of selecting those members. Councilmember Tilke, would you like to take this?
Thank you, Mayor. We had an in-depth discussion about this item at our fall retreat. What we're asking tonight is to go ahead and activate the Community Engagement Task Force so we can begin the process of accepting applications and setting out a program of work for that task force with regular feedback to the council. And I will make that motion if that's appropriate.
That is great. Any comments or questions by anyone? We have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Tilke, seconded by Councilmember Anderson. Please vote. Motion passes 6-1. Moving on to boards, commissions, and committees. Do we have any reports from council on any of your boards and commissions and committees that you serve as liaisons? Seeing none, I will move to communications from our town manager.
Mayor, council, none tonight.
Report from the council on current events. Seeing none. Okay, report from the mayor. Sorry, I have a few. I have a bunch of things to announce because this is our last meeting until December 14th.
Then December 14th will be our last meeting for this calendar year. I wanted to let everyone know that the MCSO Lieutenant Brackman that was killed last week in Scottsdale was actually a Gilbert resident, so please keep him and his family and the members of MCSO in your thoughts and prayers. I wanted to thank everybody for the Veterans Day event. The Veterans Day Committee did an amazing job. Thank you to all of the council members that attended. Representative Pollock was there, and the event was very well attended at the Gilbert Regional Park. This Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Gilbert Regional from 4 to 9 p.m. will be the Gilbert Music Festival. This is the first time that we are holding the Gilbert Musical Festival down at the Gilbert Regional Park during Gilbert Days. The Gilbert Days Rodeo will be Friday the 19th at 7 p.m., Saturday the 20th at 8 p.m., and Sunday the 21st at 2 p.m., being held at Horseshoe Park in Queen Creek. It is a beautiful facility if you haven't been out there for a rodeo. The Gilbert Days Parade will be Saturday, 11/20, 8:30 a.m. on Gilbert Road. That runs from Juniper to just south of Elliott. Look forward to seeing all of our residents out there enjoying this momentous historic occasion in Gilbert for Gilbert Days Parade. That same day, the Gilbert Half Marathon and 10K will also be taking place, Saturday, 11/20. That kicks off from Higley High School at 7:30 a.m. and creates a multitude of rolling street closures. So please, please keep that in mind for this Saturday, 11/20. Check gilbertaz.gov for any of that information or all of the town's social media. Thursday, Thanksgiving, 11/25 at 8:30 a.m., there will be a 1-mile family fun run and a 5K at 9 a.m. for the Gilbert Turkey Trot, which I will be there for, so I'm excited about that. On Monday, 11/29, from 6 to 8:30 p.m., we will be holding the Water Tower holiday lighting at our Water Tower Park in downtown Gilbert. This year's event will include free family activities, food trucks, and live music. I'm very excited to be part of that this year and look forward to seeing lots of residents down there. And I just wanted to mention that I am fortunate enough to be traveling to Oahu for Pearl Harbor Day, which will be the 80th anniversary commemorating that fateful day in our nation's history. And I'm very excited to be making this trip to tie in our U.S. host town for the USS Arizona submarine. And no town funds will be expended for my trip. So thank you all very much. I will go ahead and wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. See you back here on December 14th, and we will recess this meeting and move back to our special meeting. Adjourn this meeting. Yes. Adjourn this meeting this evening. Thank you.